Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, we're filled with rage! Streets of Rage 4, that is. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including the Game Awards announcements and also the Nintendo Indie World Showcase. And then on Thursday, we're going to be talking about our favorite winter levels. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yep.
Because I am feeling that holiday spirit.
Yeah.
I am listening to Christmas music in the car.
Ooh.
I'm, hearing all the
radio, or you pop in a CD.
It's a little bit of both.
Okay.
I have my own personal playlist that is
Mm.
downloaded on my phone 365 days a year. And then I will also occasionally listen to the radio when I really need a dose of just like bad Christmas music. Unmemorable lyrics, bad melodies, terrible cover versions.
So speaking of none of that, did you see that Mariah Carey's "All I Want for Christmas Is You" "All I Want for Christmas Is You" is the name of the song, is a number one single for the first time in its life?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
It is her 19th number one single.
Congratulations to her. It's always nice to see the underdog win.
It is great to see an underdog win, and also hey, that's a song that you don't hear enough of, and now we hear enough of it.
Yeah, I think we have met equilibrium in All I Want for Christmas Is You.
That's right.
It's not too much.
No,
but
not at all.
Yeah, I think we've reached just the right amount.
I mean, it is the only modern Christmas classic, right?
Yeah, hands down.
It's the only one in the last. When was that song written? No one knows. There's no way to know.
I'm going to hazard a guess and say 1875.
It's
a guess.
I'm going to say 77.
You jerk.
If you want to be a jerk like me, you can borrow my copy of Sonic Forces and make that little hedgehog run around as fast as you can. All you got to do is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com and give us a mailing address that I can write on the outside of an envelope and send Sonic Forces onto you.
If you are looking for a last-minute gift idea,
okay,
if you are scrambling for a last-minute gift idea,
yeah,
why not put you can even put your own address or put your friend's address on the Sonic Forces borrowing program list.
Yes.
And then write them a nice card,
right?
That says, "Hey, I really like you. I'm glad you're in my life. As a gift, I put you on the Nintendo Cartridge Society Sonic Forces borrowing program. And when it is your turn,
right? And it won't be your turn for a couple months at least.
But what an even better way to reconnect with somebody in 6 months.
Yeah, this is the perfect gift for someone that you find yourself estranged to. Someone who you don't have any reason to see other than you're going to let them borrow my copy of Sonic Forces.
It's the perfect gift for that person.
Also, speaking of the perfect gift, here's the only thing that we're asking for Christmas, and it's not you. It's for you to give us a review on Apple Podcasts.
And here's a fun thing, and really wherever you get this show, it'd be awesome if you left us a review. We love it every time. 2 more people in the U.S. podcast Apple Podcast Store this past week left us 5-star reviews without writing anything, which, great. Don't feel obligated to write anything.
Good on you. Cut corners wherever possible.
Time is money.
Right. But also if you write 3 words, good podcast is fine.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'm not discouraging it. I'm just saying if you are a busy CEO, and you would like to rate our show, but you don't want to write a review because you can't get your secretary to do it or something.
Why couldn't you get your secretary to do it?
Because it's the holidays and she's taking time off.
That's right.
And you're cool with it.
Right. Because you're a good CEO.
Yeah, you work at one of those scooter companies.
I mean, you could, any CEO should allow their secretary to take time off
They
around the
should.
holidays. You know who famously didn't?
Scrooge.
Yep, and he's the meanest CEO of them all. CFO, probably. All right. let's get into what we've been playing this week. So, Shovel Knight is now complete.
I kind of can't believe it actually happened.
Yeah, me neither. The King of Cards expansion and the like all new mode Shovel Knight Showdown came out last week, and I was champing at the bit to download them, and I did. And then I've sunk a ton of time into King of Cards, and I love it. He has always the sort of like gimmick around the new scenarios, the new what's the word I'm looking for here?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, then basically the new like games
right.
is that each one, you know, has the character's like locomotion front and center. Like how that character moves around the screen is what makes each of those games distinct. That's what makes Shovel Knight so fun. That's what makes the Spectre Knight stuff so fun, and what makes the Plague Knight stuff kind of a bummer. That the way he moves around the levels is kind of a chore. And also like the way it's connected to how he attacks things is kind of clumsy. But King Knight is like a perfect. It's all based on he does like a dash like Wario. Where he's like just smashing into stuff, but then when he smashes into something, he like kind of bounces away from it and starts twirling, and that twirling makes like the bottom of his body, like the bottom of his jump, another point of attack. And so if you then like bounce off something, then you've got another dash in you, and then you can kind of keep chaining those together. So it's kind of a matter of finding something to hit from the side, then something to jump on, then something to hit from the side, and then you can kind of keep that going forever if you are alternating properly.
That sounds really cool. I read an article that Jason Schreier from Kotaku published, I think it was last week around when the this final content was released, where he talked to the Yacht Club Games guys, and just about how like long they have been working on this, and how, you know, like it's kind of been, you know, obviously like off and on stressful, and just trying, you know, they thought they were going to be done with this like way long ago. I don't know. It was really interesting to check out.
Yeah, I mean the original Shovel Knight came out like 4 or 5 years ago at this point. So the fact that they've been working on, you know, expansions for all that time,
right? In order, because they were all like Kickstarter stretch goals.
Yeah, which is crazy. Like, it's insane that they actually went through and fulfilled all of them and didn't like just push any out that like weren't going. I mean, I guess the very first expansion is not super fun, the Plague Knight one, but both Spectre Knight and King Knight have been like amazing, like rich, full experiences. I have, excuse me, I probably have about 8.5 hours in King Knight, and I'm right up to the end boss. And the bosses in Shovel Knight are can be tough, and so I'm just kind of to that point now where I'm like, well, maybe I'll beat this and maybe I won't. But I mean, I've had a ton of fun with it, and there's like a card game component to it too. So like it's half Shovel Knight-esque 2D side-scrolling, you know, whatever. And then there is a card game that plays a lot like the card game in Final Fantasy VIII, where you are like placing cards on like a little grid, and they have arrows on them, and so like you kind of like push the cards around, and you need your cards to be on the spaces that have gems on them by the end of the match. I cannot wrap my head around this at all. And like, you know, I'm not one to say like, oh, absolutely not to like, you know, whatever like additional game types are in a video game. But this is one that like I've just not been able to wrap my head around and have mostly ignored. I think I played 2 games of it in my whole playthrough, and everything else is sort of like optional. So it's if you're into that sort of thing, it's there, and if you don't want to mess with it, you don't have to.
And this is separate from, there was a whole nother game that was released. Showdown? Is that right? Shovel Knight Showdown?
Shovel Knight Showdown still launches from the same treasure trove.
Oh, so it was also
dash.
Free.
Yes.
Oh,
yes,
wow.
That's correct. I haven't really wrapped my head around Shovel Knight Showdown just yet. It looks like I should not be trying to play it by myself, which is the only thing I've tried to do so far. But like, you're on a single screen and you're controlling one of the Shovel Knight characters, and that could be Shovel Knight himself or the King Knight, Plague Knight, and Spectre Knight. So like the 4 kind of character types that you're used to controlling a lot. And then there's also Shield Knight from the original Shovel Knight, and a handful of others that you get to control for the first time in the series. And it's a little bit of like a brawler slash like trying to control resources on the map kind of thing. And it seems like it could be fun if you find yourself, in a room with 3 other Shovel Knight fans. And I may force my friends and Sarah to play it with me over Christmas. But we'll see if they're receptive to that. They might not be.
There was also a Tetris Maximus event this weekend, right?
Yes.
Which I totally blanked on.
So, and this is also one, I don't know if these things are just like getting announced late in the week, so you and I aren't catching them.
I think we didn't talk about this one because I think it was announced after our news episode had gone out. And if we don't talk about it, it doesn't forget
exist,
about it.
Right.
Yeah.
But so it's a Tetris Maximus event, and then I think they're just adding team battles regularly.
Yeah, it an update went out for Tetris 99 that included this new team battle mode.
So the way the team battles work is that when you sign into it, to start a team battle, you can either there are ways to link up with other players, but with passwords. Or passcode, so Nintendo back on their friend code garbage. So you can do that, or you can just pick a team when you go in,
and it's 4 different colors, right?
Yeah, it's and they're elements, so it's fire, water, grass, and electricity. It's kind of Pokemon types.
Yeah.
And so then the split is usually pretty close to even. A big team is 30, but usually they're all about 25. And so it's just sort of you can target which team you want to send your garbage to, and then it's weird because for the Tetris Maximus tournament, the only way to get points is to after you get knocked out is to stay until the end of your whole team getting knocked out.
That kind of stinks.
So I played a little bit of it today, probably for half an hour, 45 minutes, and kept spamming that rematch button because I want to keep playing, but I wasn't getting any points until I played a match where so there's another feature here where when someone gets knocked out, they can spectate, and if you are watching one of your teammates play, you can offer a like. So 1 like per game is what you're allotted, and if someone gives you a like, you get 2 points. So I've got something 8 points, something like that, because a couple people liked what I was doing. But yeah, it's just weird to have to it's either that or watch the entirety of a game, which isn't super fun.
No, I do like the idea of team battles.
Yeah, and I think that the team if you didn't have to stick around and to see how the whole thing shook out, I think it would be a lot better. I'm interested to see what it looks like not in the Tetris Maximus mode. Maybe the colors will just be colors and they take the elemental theming away. I'm not sure. But good news for you, Mark. One of the other things that came along with the update is that themes that were part of previous Tetris Maximuses can now be purchased with tickets. So you're no longer locked out from those forever, and my accomplishments from months ago have now been
worthless.
Nullified. Yeah,
right. And I finally have a use for the tickets that I've been accumulating slowly accumulating.
Tickets. Have you had a chance to play anything, Mark?
No, thank you for calling me out on it, so I could be shamed publicly.
Very good. That was my goal. All right, let's get into the new releases. Hey, no shame about it. Sometimes you just don't have time to
Yeah,
play.
I was just hoping that we'd I could just slide through this one by, I don't know, offering conversational parts to what you've been playing. Didn't happen. Not a great week for new releases. Not a lot coming out. Today, December 17th, Rift Keeper is released. And then on Thursday, some games like Dual Brain Volume 1, Calculation, which I'm telling you, Nintendo just released Brain Training over here.
Yeah, I mean, there's no reason to put out Dual Brain Volume 1.
And I understand that, Nintendo, you are not putting out Dual Brain Volume 1, somebody else is.
But you are allowing it to be put out.
because there's a void in the market that you're not quashing with your built-in monopoly. Also, Melbit's World is released, and then on Friday, December 20th, 60 Parsecs and JDM Racing.
Mark, I don't know what any of this
is. I don't either. I really, truly do not.
And look, we got a ton of other games to play, so
right.
No one's going to.
I mean, somebody will, and good for them.
All right, great. Let's close out this segment. Now it's time for a regular segment on our show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Today we are discussing Secret Santa or White Elephant gift exchanges or any of that kind of thing.
Which, I will say just broadly,
yes,
I generally don't care for.
I also do not really care for it because if there's... I mean, gift giving in general, I'm a little bit ambivalent about because for the most part, I don't really want someone to give me a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That like, especially if it is like a physical object that I then have to keep in my home and like find a place for or like fold into my. I understand these are maybe strange complaints, and I'm starting to sound a little Scroogey myself. I am the CFO of Nintendo Cartridge Society. But yeah, and anytime it's like gamified like that, like I guess I can appreciate like the game of it and that it also like makes your obligations clearer. You know what I mean? That like if someone says like, okay, we're doing a White Elephant gift exchange and it's a $20 max, and you're like, great, now I don't have to like figure out if I need to get people things.
Yeah, I
Although
think
sometimes you still do.
Right, I think that's true. The thing that I don't particularly care for about it, and I know that this also makes me a Scrooge, so definitely the COO of Nintendo Cartridge Society, is that I don't think either of us knows what those acronyms stand for.
Chief Operating Officer and Chief Financial Officer. I understand.
That I feel like there's like especially like Office or whatever, like there's like a weird like social obligation around it where there's and maybe I'm just putting too much pressure on it, where there's like a set of expectations that your gift is going to be like good or interesting or useful.
Yes. I don't this is going to be a peek into my brain here. I feel like in an office setting there is a pressure that I am probably putting on myself, or that I think other people are putting onto me that they're actually not putting onto me, to come up with a funny gift.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I fancy myself a funny man, and people are like, Patrick, you make me laugh, whatever. So I'm like, now whatever I bring to the White Elephant gift exchange has to be something funny.
Right. And how much fake vomit can $20 buy?
I mean,
not enough,
but a lot. Like too much. I recently, Sarah was asking me what she should do for what Christmas present she should get for her team at work.
Yeah.
And I said you should get each of them a 24-pack of really high quality toilet paper.
Practical.
Because look, you're not making any assumptions about like
everybody poops.
Everybody poops, man, and everyone needs to wipe. So, and people will sometimes scrimp on like, oh, we don't have to have the nice stuff at my house.
Yeah, brighten their holidays.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Have you had any like memorable White Elephant / Secret Santa experiences?
Geez, I don't. Well, so have I had any memorable? I'm gonna say no because I can't think of any. Have you?
Fair. That was probably like the one that I felt best about.
Yeah.
Was when I was like 8 years old. And we were doing like a piano recital around the holidays, and it was actually a pretty good idea. So each like person would go up, they'd perform their little piece, and then they would be able to like pick a gift from all the ones, and then they could, I think the way it works usually is like you could exchange it once if you didn't like it. And the one that I was coveting so much was, I don't even like, it probably cost $1.50. It was like a stick. Oh, well, I guess we'll never know.
We'll never know what the stick was. We were accompanied today by pianist G. Liu. All right, Mark, are you ready to get into the news?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. We have a ton of new games announced at the Game Awards and on the Indie World Showcase, both of which happened last week.
Right, so that's all the news is. Maybe other things happened, we don't know. Here's the thing. I was looking for news from this last week, and I saw a headline that was something along the lines of winning Game of the Year meant a lot for like the Breath of the Wild producers. And I was like, what is going on?
Right, that happened in like 2017.
Right, but the news is that it meant a lot.
Right. Remember our famous not news segment?
That's right.
Where we would call out something that people were talking about that was not news?
So by and large, we are sparing you the not news from the week, except of course for that one thing that I just brought up.
All right.
Yes.
So starting with the Nintendo Indie World Showcase last week, lots of new games announced. Probably the one I'm most excited for is Sports Story, which is a sequel of sorts of Golf Story.
Yeah.
I really struggled with that.
a sequel of sorts
to Golf Story. That's what I was looking for.
Right.
To Golf Story, which came out, I think, in 2017, I'm going to guess.
I believe Golf Story was in the original, like, indie... they weren't called indie showcases. They were called, like...
Nindy Showcase.
Nindy Directs, maybe.
Yes, I think you're right. I didn't finish it, but I played quite a bit of it. Really, really liked it. It's really cute. It was from this small developer in Australia, I think. Has a lot of quirky humor. Anyways, this sequel, which is coming, they say mid-2020, is more than just golf.
That's right.
But it seems to have like the same look and feel to it.
Yeah, and like the hook of Golf Story was that it was like a sort of classic 16-bit style like RPG or like Harvest Moon kind of game, where like the mechanic that you use to like get through to the next like portion of the game is golf.
Right. And a pretty like satisfying like 16-bit golf experience.
But this it seems like is so they showed golf, tennis, soccer, baseball, and it seems like they're kind of mashing them up too, right? Like there were people playing like golf with baseball bats, and so like everything. It seems like they're having fun with the premise of like sports being a like kind of generic like method that you advance through the game.
They also promise that there's going to be dungeons, espionage, mini games.
Right.
I'm excited to find out what all that means.
Maybe another in-game card game that I can ignore.
We also found out that Streets of Rage 4 is coming in the first half of 2020.
You a Streets of Rage guy, Mark?
I have played Streets of Rage.
So I have too. I have a really hard time like identifying it or placing it in my head as discrete from like other brawlers,
right? Like Double Dragon.
Yeah.
They all blend together for me as well.
It occupies the same space in my brain as like Final Fight, even though I like know Final Fight pretty well. And especially after playing the games in that Capcom beat 'em up bundle, that like I have such a feel for like the Capcom version of this that I'm like a little bit interested to either go back and explore like because these are Sega games, and Streets of Rage 4 is at least co-developed by Sega, or at least being published, partially by Sega. That like I'm a little bit interested to dip into it just because I have had such a nice time with the Capcom brawlers of late.
Also announced was Gleamlight, which is a 2D side scroller. They specifically call out,
yes,
there's no UI.
No UI, and that like the game adapts to your playstyle to like tell you what to do and where to go next, or it's not clear. That may have been some like high-minded whatever. But it looks kind of like Hollow Knight-y maybe. But it looked cool. Yeah.
Also, Bacon Switch, which is a co-op party brawler.
Did this look just like Overcooked to you? Except with like you get to punch the fruit into submission or whatever.
Yeah. Yes, it did.
Before you could make punch out of it or something.
Also, we're getting Super Mash in May 2020, which is like a love letter to retro genres in general, retro gaming in general. This seems very ambitious to me because basically it's like we're gonna take these two styles of games, like a fighter and I don't know, like a puzzle game, and then put them together or whatever.
Like Puzzle Fighter?
Yes, but we're gonna do it dynamically, and you choose like the combinations. And I think this game is already out on Steam.
Yeah.
But it seems like a really cool idea that I don't know if it will actually be satisfying to play.
Well, it's interesting because like they kind of establish the concept as like you get to create the genre by mashing these two genres up. But like I wonder how much of that like is actually determined dynamically, or if it's just like they went through and like made little games that is the combination of like any two possible like game types.
Yeah.
Because there wouldn't be an infinite number of like I just don't know how it's done otherwise.
Right.
How you combine like a 2D platformer with a turn-based RPG.
Yeah, the thing that makes me feel like there's some element of like customization or randomness is that you are able to like generate them and then share them with your friends.
Yes, but I don't think there's not like a level editor or anything like that. Like you're still
right. I guess that's true.
I really don't know. This is something that and I guess we could probably check it out now or check out like videos of it being played on Steam. But the Super Mash is one that I'm going to be like interested in seeing what exactly like what it really is in May.
We also got one of those famous like it's available now in the Talos Principle, which is a first-person puzzle game in a non-linear world, has like 120 plus puzzles to get through. I think I've seen in one of the GDQs, one of the Game Done Quick marathons, that somebody speedrun this. So I've seen the game be completely broken.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool if it's what I'm thinking of. It has some sort of like little like ancient Egypt aesthetic going on with it.
Yeah, I mean it looked very The Witnessy to me, which is a game that I liked for the period that I was playing it, and then put it down for a little bit, and then couldn't remember how to solve any of the puzzles.
Yeah.
But Talos Principle is has a pretty good reputation, so it's cool to see it coming to Switch.
We're also getting Sail Forth, which is a naval 3D action game. Dauntless Storm Chasers, which was free the day it was, like the day of
it was another
showcase
available now. Mm-hmm. And Dauntless is the Monster Hunter like, right?
Yeah, it's like a free Monster Hunter game. I think it was also on display at E3.
What's interesting is the like new area that they were showing off is also like a snowy plains or like snowy mountains or whatever, which is exactly what Monster Hunter's like DLC,
right? Like Iceborne, maybe,
yeah. I don't know. I'm not a Monster Hunter guy, but it was just interesting to be like, oh yeah, I guess that's just the second step of every monster hunting game.
Murder by Numbers, which we had talked about previously and learned a little bit more about.
Hey, I will say that I am no less excited about this game now than I was when we first talked about it.
Absolutely.
Let's recap what it is, Mark.
Okay, so it's a murder mystery adventure game.
Yes.
So check. Mm-hmm. In Old Hollywood.
Also check.
Check. Where you do Picross.
Check.
To get clues.
Check.
And we learned that it's going to have music by the composer of Phoenix Wright's music.
Right.
So check.
Right. So this is a game that we're going to love. I'm calling it now. We're going to love it. It's coming out early 2020. So, I expect to hear us talk more about that when we play it.
Oddworld Stranger's Wrath is coming to the Switch in January of next year. It's the HD version of the Xbox game, which was originally released in 2005, that I know only by reputation.
Yeah, I actually don't know any of the Oddworld games.
I always confuse Oddworld with Psychonauts, another series that I'm only passingly familiar with.
Yes, I mean, they're both like, and I might be wrong on this, but they both feel like achingly English.
Well, I think one is by Double Fine. I think Psychonauts was by Double Fine, which is Tim Schafer's studio,
sure.
now owned by Microsoft and not at all British.
But feels that way.
You're right. Yeah, and it's hard to argue with that. Both of them are knowing nothing about Oddworld, Stranger's Wrath, or Oddworld at all. I just think it's so ugly and uninviting.
Me too. But I think that is like that ugliness is part of it, like its stated charm, right? And like part of its purpose is like it's cute because it's ugly.
Like Rango?
I mean, did that work for Rango?
I mean, could we all? I mean, who knows? Could we all just like take a moment to remember that Rango was a movie?
Let's not.
Directed by Gore Verbinski.
Let's not relitigate Rango on this podcast.
I mean, should we litigate Gore Verbinski? What happened there? Skatebirds coming late 2020, which is a little bit surprising. I don't know why. I guess
it's surprising that it's so far out.
Yeah,
it is weird to tease a game that is like a year away,
and also the scope of it. Right, and this is me being ignorant, but does seem small. Very cute looking though.
Yeah, so this is like a Tony Hawk style game where instead of professional skateboarders or Darth Maul, you control a little bird who's on a little skateboard.
Yeah, on a little tech deck.
Yeah,
as pointed out by a friend of the show, Matt Acevedo. You can like get clothing for them in game and dress them up. It's such a funny idea. Oh, like the maps and everything are like a desk.
Yeah, because they're small little birds.
Yeah.
They need a small little skate park.
It's a hilarious idea. I love it. I think all the Tony Hawk puns have been exhausted at this point.
It's well-worn territory. We're not even going to try to do it.
No, just want to acknowledge it because I was delighted by each and every one of them. Next comes Liberated, which is a cyberpunk graphic novel action game.
Which I'm curious to like see more of it in action, but like it does the thing where like you can actually see a page and the camera kind of like pans across it,
right?
And then, like
what was the name of that Sega Genesis game?
Oh, you're thinking of Comix Zone.
I am thinking of Comix Zone,
which is not a great game. I mean, that's as someone who like works with comics and like finds the medium so interesting and like has such storytelling potential, it feels weird to have like panels where things are moving inside. Like, I don't know, this is the comic purist in me being like, I don't know if that works, but whatever, the game looks cool.
Yeah, we're all rooting for Liberated. Boyfriend Dungeon,
here we go. Here's something we are all rooting for.
Dungeon crawler, dating sims, weapons can become cute boys.
It's not just that they can.
Oh,
it's
they
that
do.
They do. So it's a dungeon crawling whatever where you're going in and you find weapons and you fight monsters with these weapons. When you take them out of the dungeon, the weapons become boys.
Which really is right. This is the basically Xenoblade Chronicles 2.
Yeah,
except like
gender
way
swapped.
more fun.
And that you can like the point of it is when you get them out of the dungeons, you date them.
Right.
So cool.
Yeah, I love it. The Survivalists coming next year as well. It's set in the Escapist universe from the same studio that created the Escapist and Escapist 2. Features procedurally generated islands.
Yeah, so like the Escapists was like all about trying to break out of jail. Mm-hmm. I played a little bit of the second one, but the game systems are like so dense that like just jumping right into it, I didn't have any idea really what I was doing, and it all felt like too big and a little bit too like PC like for me. That's personal computery, not politically correct. But yeah, it's funny to me, and maybe it won't be funny to fans of The Escapist, but that they were like touting that this thing is in the Escapist universe, like that. Like that's not a huge property that we're all like, oh yes, finally more Escapist universe content. But yeah, so this is like the same premise, like probably the same density of game systems, but you're just trapped on an island trying to not die.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Also at the very end, we saw the briefest snippet of Axiom Verge 2, which is much desired game.
Yes. So neither of us have ever played Axiom Verge. And I've always been a little bit put off by the kind of like bleak sci-fi aesthetic.
Sure,
it's
very
of the original Axiom Verge. Mm-hmm. It's like very high contrast, like black and white, and like there are other colors thrown in there too, but like the black and white seem to be like the prevailing color scheme in that. This seemed a lot more colorful and a lot more like I don't just like scuffed up and like lived in. Like it's still a sci-fi setting, right?
Yeah, yes, and not being familiar with the original Axiom Verge, and because it's so far out, the creator / developer is still being a little cagey about exactly what's happening. But it seems like it takes place, maybe both before and after the original Axiom Verge.
No, that is interesting.
But yeah, the setting is definitely more organic, right? Like, whereas the first one is very like H.R. Giger.
Yes, totally. Where like maybe some of that's organic, but like
in a gross way.
The kind of organic that a bug is. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's nothing in Axiom Verge that I want to hug.
Right.
Guessing. Have you never played it?
Yeah.
But Axiom Verge 2, I'm guessing something in there I'm going to want to hug.
Or at least have a picnic on.
Oh yeah, totally.
And then so that was everything that we saw in the indie showcase, which was a lot.
Yep, good presentation too. Like quick, and they just kind of like sped through things. It felt good.
Mm-hmm. And then on to the Game Awards, which were held last Thursday, and Nintendo.
It's kind of the opposite, right? Because the Game Awards just go on and on and on.
I mean, yeah, it's completely endless. They just 1 year's just runs right into the next year's.
That's right. The Game Awards never stops. It's something that they don't publicize is that the Game Awards are still happening right now. They're giving away lesser awards, but it's still happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's why the Clippers have to move to a new stadium in Inglewood. So Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, which, man, a game that like seems to have sold decently, but just got completely overshadowed by everything else that was going on this year.
Totally. It came out within a week of Fire Emblem Three Houses, right?
Mm-hmm. So had a new DLC pack announced. It's called Rise of the Phoenix and includes Cable, Iceman, Gambit, and Phoenix. And then it will introduce a Danger Room component, which allows co-op and competitive play. And it will be available next Monday.
Which is pretty crazy that it's... So how much of the DLC packs did we know? So one of them is already out.
Right, the Marvel Knights one.
Right. And that's like a vampire story.
Yeah. And then I think we already knew the Fantastic Four was going to be one.
And we knew that the X-Men were going to be one too, but I don't think we had the titles for either of them.
No, I think you're right.
And so this, finding out that the X-Men one is specifically Phoenix related, and that Jean Grey, the Phoenix, is one of the playable characters is interesting. I wonder like how they play with that, because usually through the course of like the Phoenix story, the Phoenix dies, becomes evil, dies again. So like it'll be interesting to see how all of that kind of plays out. I'm also like just seeing that and then seeing like the little bit of a teaser of like knowing more about the third DLC pack. It makes me excited for a time when they will put out put out a like Marvel Ultimate Alliance Complete Edition that just has all the content like together.
Yeah.
Hopefully not for $80, but
right, because the third one is called Shadow of Doom and is due out next spring.
Yep.
So they're staggering these pretty significantly apart, because I think the first one was Marvel Knights was released at the end of August. I think that's right. And then now we're getting this one a few months later, and then in spring. Also, there was an extended trailer for No More Heroes 3.
Yeah, so there's a kind of shorter trailer that actually ran during the Game Awards, and then there was a longer one. And not watching them back to back, I couldn't tell you really what was extended about the extended one. But did you get a chance to watch this trailer, Mark?
I saw the one that happened during the Game Awards.
Okay.
Where it was like a trailer for a fake game, and then like Travis like breaks in. Yeah,
so I'm not sure what any of this is.
Yeah.
The trailer and the extended trailer focused on a like ET-esque story between a boy and this like fuzzy alien that he meets, whose name is Fu, F-U, which I'm sure F-U is Suda's.
We're all laughing.
Yeah, we're all laughing. Also, Imran Khan pointed out that F and U are each one letter more than E-T. F is one more than
I'm
E.
laughing.
Yeah. So, I mean, it works on a bunch of levels. But so, it's a sweet trailer for like 3 minutes of like the boy and his alien friend, and then the alien goes away and says like, I promise I'll come back. And then when he does come back, he's like a jerk.
Super into Xfinity.
Yes, so much.
Just wants Comcast products.
And then like that kind of segues, and like the aliens are like attacking and whatever, and just sort of like rips into No More Heroes in a way that I don't totally understand.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I played the first game in the series way back on the Wii, and it's, I don't know, I don't think that I really love Suda51's sense of humor. Like, I don't think we find the same things funny, and I think I don't know, all of it is just like, yeah, this made so much more sense back in like the humor of 2008.
Look, man, when we were slamming Mountain Dews, like it just made a ton of sense.
Chug-a-lug.
Do you know that there's a Beach Boys song called Chug-a-Lug that's about a root beer drinking contest?
Is it from like the 80s, like Rebirth?
Oh, no. It is like an original 60s
Brian Wilson special.
Oh, yeah. It is a beautiful. I recommend everyone check it out.
So all the talk around this game claims that it's the last numbered entry in the No More Heroes series.
Fine.
And
what a weird claim to make,
right? Like people were
it's the last one
out
right
on them,
and it's it's the last one right now,
right?
Like you can tell me that there's never going to be a No More Heroes number 4, and also like who cares? Like you just name it something different.
They're just seeing all these Star Wars trailers, and they're like, "Yes, we want some of that.
Yes, our saga will end,
but the legacy will live on forever." Also, you put a note here, and I completely agree. This trailer was just weird, even by like No More Hero standards.
Yeah,
I just don't know who this series is for, and I feel like anymore. Like I really don't. Like and I know that Suda51's games are always kind of niche, and I've liked other things he's done before. I like when things are weird. You know, I would rather things be weird than boring.
Yes.
But No More Heroes to me has always just been like, it's never been weird enough. In that, like, all the stuff has always been just like so like bland to me and like obvious.
Yeah,
and, the humor is just, I don't know. It's always felt a little flat to me.
I mean, it is, or at least my perception of it has always been that like the kind of humor, the kind of weirdness is just taking what's kind of like bad or lazy about like American cinema, or like, you know, the American cinema of like the late 80s, early 90s, and just cranking all of the ridiculousness up to 11. And like, that's fun in a way, but it's kind of fun in a way that I don't know, like I'm not connecting with it.
Yeah.
I also find that because the trailer, like I said, starts out, it's like 3 minutes of like an ET style. And, you know, seeing it at the Game Awards, I was like, oh, this might be an interesting, like, is it a 2019 take on A Boy and His Blob, or, you know, some kind of make good on the Atari ET game, or like, you know, like what is this? And then it's like, oh no, this is something that we're going to like tear down and kind of make fun of, because when the alien returns, of course he's a jerk and he just wants to destroy humanity. It's like, all right. I don't know. It feels like the easy joke. It feels like the first draft Rick and Morty joke.
Yeah, and that's kind of how the entire series has felt to me.
Yeah.
Bravely Default 2 was announced.
This is confusing.
Because
we've already had a sequel to Bravely Default.
Yes.
Called Bravely Second.
Yes, but this is basically like, there was Bravely Default.
Yes.
Right? And think of that as Final Fantasy X. And then, no, seriously. And then, no, like, in the sense that, like, Bravely Second is like Final Fantasy X-2. So it is a direct sequel to Bravely Default.
Right.
And then Bravely Default 2 would basically be like Final Fantasy 12, right? Where it is a completely new entry with completely different characters, completely different story, completely different world.
Yes.
That exists in this, like, Bravely Default universe. Like Final Fantasy,
or like a Bravely Default multiverse, like similar,
right? Exactly, or just like really just a brand.
Yes,
yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
And speaking of doesn't necessarily mean anything, the Bravely games were 3DS games that are kind of turn-based, job-based RPGs that kind of won Square some acclaim as they were like kind of going away from that sort of battle system.
Yeah, I mean, I think people liked those games for the same reason they liked we all liked Octopath Travelers, it captured
yeah.
something, right? Same developers,
yeah.
Where it like captured something that games don't really do anymore.
Yes. Except for Dragon Quest, which will never stop doing it. But it was interesting. It showed off the trailer. Was touting that like it was the studio that was doing this, and a lot of the same teams that did Octopath and blah blah blah. And they were showing all these pieces of art that were like these really kind of wonderful like pencil and paint like compositions that kind of inspire the world. And then it ended on like a shot of the like a quartet of heroes, and they're in this like kind of gnarly like chibi style that I think the characters look dumb in this.
Yeah, it looks like the 3DS aesthetic writ large.
Yes,
which again, one of the things people really responded to in Octopath Traveler was the like aesthetic.
Yeah.
And this reminded me much more of, like I Am Setsuna or the Tokyo RPG Factory games, which not really a compliment. I will give them the benefit of the doubt because I did like Octopath Traveler a lot.
Yeah, totally.
And it's also kind of fun to see, we've been doing this show long enough that, after Octopath Traveler was released and was met with a lot of acclaim, we had, there were like interviews and articles that we were talked about where the like head of the studio was saying, yeah, we're going to try to basically become like a studio that does a game a year and a bunch of different franchises. And, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, fans of, Bravely Default might have something to look forward to. So it is fun to me to see this like come to fruition.
Sure. That we've seen every part of this.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. We've been doing the show a long time. Yeah. It definitely is cool. And I like the idea that, this, you mentioned Tokyo RPG Factory, that like they've basically been dissolved at this point, right? Or maybe absorbed into like this studio.
Yeah, I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me because I don't think either Lost Sphere or I Am Setsuna. I think especially I Am Setsuna bombed pretty hard.
Oh, I mean, especially Lost Sphere. Like I Am Setsuna at least had.
Oh, was that the first one?
Yeah.
Oh, I got that reversed.
No.
Okay.
Lost Sphere was the second one.
Oh, okay. I was thinking it was the first, and I Am Setsuna was the most recent one. But you were correct.
Yeah, and like I Am Setsuna it has like a sort of stubborn insistence on one setting, like the whole thing is set in like a sort of like wintry tundra.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lost Sphere is more of like it kind of attempts some like time travel-y stuff, a la Chrono Trigger, which is obviously what I mean. It's one of those things where it's like getting so close to being Chrono Trigger without actually, because I mean that's a tall order, right?
Right.
It's like trying to fake Star Wars. Like,
yeah,
it just doesn't work.
I think both of those games were their attempt at like trying to recapture this, like, which makes sense because there is in my mind a huge market if you can do that well. But like you said, that's a really tall order to try to aspire to.
Yeah, and I think that that style of game has been better served by, as we're seeing, the Bravely games and Octopath Traveler.
Yeah. Finally, Nintendo won a handful of awards at the Game Awards. Luigi's Mansion won Best Family Game. Nintendo was going to come away with that one no matter what because they were the only 5 games nominated.
They had it locked
for all
down.
Nintendo games. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate won Best Fighting Game.
Great.
Fire Emblem Three Houses won Best Strategy Game. And then Fire Emblem Three Houses also won the People's Voice Award, which I think was like one where you could just go online and vote for a game. I'm not entirely clear.
Yeah, it's not entirely clear what that was, and if Fire Emblem won it largely because it wasn't nominated for Game of the Year. Like I wonder, because the internet has a weird sense of like, well, it wasn't. We can at least do it justice here. Which is what my perception of what this was is.
Yeah, but I'm okay with it though, in the sense that
I think it's my game of the year. So.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
I mean, of course, Tetris 99 because Tetris 99 came out this year.
And we're not doing Game of the Year awards.
No, we don't believe in it.
But
yes,
if we were,
yeah,
Fire Emblem Three Houses would probably be mine. And gosh darn it, I really need to finish that game.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Speaking of things we need to finish, let's close out this segment. And that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. We are trying to get up to 100. We're almost there, but we can't possibly make it unless you leave a review. And if you already have, thank you. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at NinCart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers. Wanting some clarity on what the stick thing was that you got from the White Elephant gift exchange? I'm not going to get it. Mark's just laughing at me. Thanks for listening.
Hi, I'm Winston.
And I'm David.
And we're the hosts of a new podcast on Campfire Media called Try It, You'll Like It.
And on our podcast, we have our guests eat a food they hate one last time.
And we have so many crazy guests.
We got amazing chefs.
We have killer comedians.
Bakers.
Candlestick makers.
Distillers.
Brewers.
Food writers.
Oh, they're writing about food.
Ooh, they're probably having some food while they're writing about that food.
Yeah, because we're eating food, and they're eating food, and you're listening to It Happen.
All you ASMR heads, enjoy. Chomp chomp.
So check it out every Thursday at Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts from.
That was good.
Yeah.
Campfire.